Hello friends, today I bring to you an important and an interesting session on Kawasaki disease. We as pediatricians do see a lot of children with suspected Kawasaki disease in our practice. And there are a lot of challenges and we do seek solutions to these patients. And this session shall provide simple solutions to our patients with Kawasaki disease. Kawasaki disease is the commonest vasculitis of children below the age of 5. It is a dreaded disease because if not treated, children develop coronary artery damage and abnormalities in up to 25% of these cases. And that is why timely diagnosis is crucial if we have to prevent the coronary artery damage. Now let us take a case. A 3-year-old boy presented to us with fever for the past 12 days. High spiking fever up to 104 degree Fahrenheit. On day 3 of fever, he developed redness of the eyes. But there was no discharge. This child had red lips, red tongue that just looked like a strawberry, and then there was a diffuse rash all over the body. On day 8 of illness, this child developed swelling of the hands and of the limbs, and then when we examined this child on day 12, there was peeling of skin around the fingers. Now if you look at the American Heart Association criteria for the diagnosis of Kawasaki disease, this child had fever for more than 5 days, bilateral conjunctival injection, changes in the oropharyngeal mucous membranes, changes in the extremities and a rash. And that is why this child satisfied the criteria for Kawasaki disease and we started the treatment for this boy. Although this child was diagnosed with Kawasaki disease, it was day 12 by the time we reached the diagnosis. Why? It was because although manifestations were present, all were not present at the same time. So the very first message, all manifestations in Kawasaki disease are not present at the same time. And the signs and symptoms like the redness of lip, redness of tongue are transient. And that is why taking a detailed history will be very crucial in diagnosing these children in time. Now look at this second case. A 3-month-old infant comes to us with fever for the last 12 days. No focus of infection. He was markedly irritable. We performed a battery of tests. Blood and urine cultures were sterile, the chest radiograph, the ultrasound abdomen, all were normal, and even the CSF examination was normal. As we had no clue what was wrong with this child, we performed an echocardiography, and this was in fact done to rule out infective endocarditis. To our surprise, the coronary arteries were dilated. There were aneurysms in all the 3 arteries, and this child was diagnosed to have Kawasaki disease. Now tell me, this child does not have redness of eyes, there is no redness of lips or tongue, there is no rash, no classical manifestations of Kawasaki disease, yet this child developed coronary damage. And this is what we call incomplete Kawasaki disease. So friends, there is a message. Unexplained fever in an infant for more than 7 days, echocardiography is warranted. And what's important to remember that infants essentially present with incomplete Kawasaki disease, and although they don't have manifestations, they are at very high risk of coronary artery damage. And that is why the American Heart Association had recently released a statement in 2017, and it gave an algorithm for incomplete Kawasaki disease where it states infants with fever for more than 7 days, you have given the first course of antibiotics and the ESR and CRP are elevated. This is an indication to do echocardiogram, and if it is positive, one should treat these children for Kawasaki disease. So the question arises, when you don't have classical signs, are there any other clinical signs that may guide a clinician in making an early diagnosis in infants? Yes, there are few signs. The perineal peeling that you see in this picture comes as early as day 6 of fever, whereas the periungual peeling comes after day 10. And that is why one needs to examine for the perineal peeling. And if one looks at the BCG site, you may see BCG induration. And this BCG induration is pathognomonic of Kawasaki disease in a febrile infant. Looking for these signs will help us making an early diagnosis. To diagnose coronary damage, we often ask for an echocardiogram. But one must remember that the first echocardiogram, if performed in the first week, is essentially normal in children with Kawasaki disease. The aneurysms, the coronary dilatations usually come in the 2nd and the 3rd week of illness. That means I have a message. Normal echocardiogram during the first week does not exclude a child from having Kawasaki disease. A repeat echocardiogram should always be performed at the end of 2 weeks to look for any coronary damage. And clinically diagnosed Kawasaki disease should receive immunoglobulin, intravenous immunoglobulin infusion, even if the first echo is normal. I think these messages will help us diagnose these children quite early in time. We should not rely on echocardiogram for treatment, and one should offer the treatment if the clinical diagnosis is made. When a pediatrician sees a child with fever and a red tongue, one of the commonest diagnoses that we offer is scarlet fever, a streptococcal infection. How do you differentiate this from Kawasaki disease? So, some of the important differentiating points. Red eyes which are seen in Kawasaki disease are never seen in scarlet fever. The peeling in Kawasaki disease is periungual, whereas you usually see a generalized peeling all over the trunk in scarlet fever. And most importantly, fever settles within 24 to 48 hours of antimicrobial therapy in scarlet fever, which does not happen in Kawasaki disease. That means if you have a suspected scarlet fever and is not responding to antibiotics in 48 hours, you have to rethink, can it be Kawasaki disease? So friends, I think there is an urgent necessity that we as pediatricians diagnose children with Kawasaki disease, and that is why this slide for you as to when should we all think Kawasaki disease.